Across countless iconic stories, one archetype continues to stand out as a symbol of resilience, determination, and unbreakable spirit: the Chosen One. Whether they appear in epic fantasies, anime sagas, futuristic sci-fi worlds, or mythic adventures, they all share a common narrative thread. They are endlessly tested, repeatedly pushed to the brink of collapse, and forced to confront challenges that would overwhelm almost anyone else. Yet no matter how extreme the hardship becomes, no matter how impossible the battlefield looks, they never surrender. Their strength is not defined by physical power alone, but by an unwavering refusal to give in, even when every logical reason suggests they should. This pattern invites a deeper question. What makes the Chosen One so uniquely resilient that quitting is never part of their story? This question is not rhetorical. It sits at the heart of why audiences across generations are drawn to this archetype. On the surface, the Chosen One is framed by prophecy, destiny, or extraordinary ability. But beneath all that mythic grandeur lies a character who represents something profoundly human. Their journey mirrors the universal struggle of confronting adversity, facing inner doubt, and persevering despite fear. When we see them standing back up after every defeat, we recognize a reflection of our own hopes, vulnerabilities, and desire to overcome the obstacles that shape our lives. Their refusal to quit resonates precisely because it transcends the fictional worlds they inhabit and speaks directly to the emotional realities of the audience. To understand why they never give up, we must look past the heroic imagery and examine the engine that drives them forward. Their endurance is not simply a product of destiny. It is not just courage, nor is it pure stubbornness. Something deeper, more layered, is at work beneath the surface. Their persistence is shaped by psychological forces, internal transformations, emotional bonds, and symbolic meaning that writers intentionally embed into their stories. Each time the Chosen One rises after a devastating setback, the narrative reveals another dimension of what fuels their fortitude. Their resilience becomes a combination of responsibility, loyalty, identity, and conscious evolution. These elements blend into a powerful formula that defines not only their actions, but their entire character arc. Today we are going to break down exactly what these forces are. We will explore the psychological drivers that make quitting unthinkable for them, from the weight of destiny that presses on their shoulders to the emotional ties that bind them to the people they fight for. We will look at how their sense of self changes after awakening to who they truly are, and why this transformation makes retreat impossible. And we will examine the symbolic foundations of the Chosen One motif, why storytellers crafted this archetype to embody the deepest forms of perseverance, and why audiences instinctively connect with it. If you enjoy story analysis, character psychology, and exploring the meaning behind narrative archetypes, this journey will reveal the hidden mechanics behind one of the most enduring figures in fiction. Together, we will understand not just what the Chosen One does, but why they do it, and why their unyielding nature continues to captivate viewers across cultures and eras. Before we begin, make sure to support the channel. If you find this kind of analysis interesting, please like and share the video to help it reach more viewers, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss upcoming content. The refusal of the Chosen One to quit does not begin as a natural heroic trait. It evolves out of a profound and often overwhelming realization that they bear responsibility for something far larger than their own survival, comfort, or desires. This shift from personal motivation to a destiny-driven obligation marks the first major anchor of their unbreakable resolve. When the Chosen One learns that they alone possess the ability, insight, or fate to alter the outcome of their world, a psychological transformation begins. Their life is no longer theirs alone. The stakes expand beyond individual struggles, pulling them into a role from which escape is not only impossible, but morally unthinkable. This is the weight that they cannot outrun, the burden that makes quitting no longer an option. At the moment they become aware of their unique position, the world around them changes in ways both subtle and monumental. What once looked like ordinary landscapes or everyday conflicts transforms into a vision of interconnected consequences. Every decision they make now holds the potential to ripple outward into the fates of countless people. The Chosen One comes to understand that their failure would not merely be a personal tragedy. It would ignite collapse, suffering, or destruction on a scale that dwarfs their own fears. This realization can be crushing, often leaving them feeling as though destiny has cornered them. Yet it is precisely this pressure that begins forging their resolve. When one person becomes the sole hinge on which the future turns, the concept of quitting dissolves. The stakes are too enormous for retreat. Destiny, in these narratives, is rarely portrayed as a gentle whisper. It arrives as an undeniable force. Whether revealed through prophecy, inherited power, spiritual calling, or cosmic design, it places the chosen one in a position where the path forward is singular and unavoidable. The psychological weight of destiny functions like gravitational pull. The character may resist at first, attempting to run from it or deny it, but eventually they recognize that refusing the call creates more chaos than accepting it. Their reluctance, confusion, or fear is overshadowed by the consequences of inaction. Destiny becomes not a matter of personal ambition, but a moral imperative. When everything and everyone depends on them, quitting becomes the equivalent of abandoning the world to collapse. This sense of responsibility is overwhelming, but it is also clarifying. It sharpens their focus, strips away distractions, and redefines their priorities. The chosen one starts to see themselves as part of a larger structure, a necessary element in a chain of events orchestrated by forces beyond their comprehension. They no longer act for self-gratification. Instead, their actions become driven by obligation, duty, and the awareness that their failure would leave a void no one else could fill. This realization becomes an emotional and psychological anchor that hardens their determination. When destiny declares that they are the fulcrum on which the future balances, the possibility of stepping away becomes unthinkable. At the heart of this responsibility lies the recognition that they are the only one. This concept is fundamental to understanding why quitting is impossible for them. The chosen one archetype is often crafted so that no other character possesses their combination of qualities: courage, lineage, power, insight, prophecy alignment, or spiritual resonance. They are not merely the best candidate for the role, they are the sole candidate. If they step aside, there is no backup plan, no replacement, no second chance. The world cannot pivot to another hero because destiny has selected precisely one. This exclusivity generates a pressure unlike any ordinary responsibility. While others may carry burdens, only the chosen one carries the burden that cannot be transferred or shared. Internally, this creates an intense emotional conflict. The protagonist may wish they were ordinary, may long for simplicity, or may be terrified by the magnitude of what they must do. But desire and fear become irrelevant beneath the massive weight of necessity. When a character reaches the point of acknowledging that they alone stand between survival and ruin, their internal landscape reorganizes itself around responsibility. Their personal wishes begin to fade in comparison to the needs of the world around them. Even if they feel unprepared or unwilling, the knowledge of what is at stake forces them into alignment with destiny's demand. It becomes less a matter of courage and more a matter of inevitability. Another dimension of this responsibility is the recognition of time. The chosen one often understands that destiny does not wait, hesitate, or negotiate. Threats grow stronger, villains close in, and crises escalate. Waiting or pausing becomes another form of failure. The world does not pause for them to gather emotional stability, gain perfect clarity, or eliminate fear. As time presses forward, the character realizes that any hesitation could lead to irreversible consequences. This awareness intensifies the pressure they feel and simultaneously fuels their drive. When the clock is always ticking and catastrophe is always looming, the idea of quitting becomes irrational, even dangerous. Over time, this responsibility becomes part of their identity. It no longer feels external or imposed. It becomes internalized as a defining feature of who they are. They begin to move, think, and act as someone who carries the weight of destiny naturally. This internalization is subtle but profound. In the beginning, responsibility feels like a burden placed upon their shoulders by fate. But as they grow, responsibility becomes a chosen commitment. They stop acting because they must, and begin acting because they believe they are meant to. This shift marks one of the most significant psychological transformations in the Chosen One arc. What begins as pressure becomes purpose. This deep internalization of responsibility dissolves the temptation to quit even in the darkest moments. They may feel exhausted, wounded, or hopeless, but the awareness of their role keeps them upright. Fear may shake them, but responsibility forces them to move. Doubt may cloud their mind, but duty keeps them steady. At their lowest point, when quitting would seem easy or even comforting, the chosen one remembers what hangs in the balance: lives, worlds, futures. This memory functions like a compass that always points toward action. They cannot prioritize their despair over the fate of others, and so they push forward, even when strength feels impossible. This is why narratives about the chosen one often depict them rising after defeat in ways that defy ordinary resilience. It is not because they are immune to pain or incapable of breaking. It is because they calculate the cost of surrender, and that cost is always catastrophic. Quitting does not merely end their story, it ends everyone's story. When the protagonist internalizes this truth, their endurance becomes non-negotiable. They persist, not because they enjoy suffering or because heroism is glamorous, but because they carry a responsibility so immense that stopping becomes synonymous with destruction. The greater the responsibility, the smaller the possibility of retreat. This principle is woven into every chosen one narrative. As threats escalate and stakes rise, the character's resolve strengthens proportionally. What might have felt like an unbearable burden at the beginning becomes a source of clarity and determination. Responsibility and destiny merge into a single, guiding force that shapes every choice they make. Even when they hesitate, the weight behind them pushes them forward. The world depends on them, and they know it. This knowledge transforms them into a figure who persists, regardless of fear, exhaustion, or doubt. In the end, the chosen one does not refuse to quit because they are fearless or invincible. They refuse because they understand the truth with unwavering clarity. They are the only one who can alter what must be altered. Their responsibility is absolute, and the consequences of failure are unthinkable. Destiny demands their endurance, and the world's survival depends on it. And once they grasp this, quitting ceases to exist as a meaningful choice. If destiny and responsibility form the structural backbone of why the chosen one never quits, then emotional anchors supply the heart. Responsibility may compel them forward, but emotion roots them in purpose. Without the people they care about, without bonds that tie their identity to real human connections, their mission would remain abstract, a distant obligation rather than a living force that moves within them. What elevates the chosen one beyond a mere instrument of prophecy is the deeply personal nature of what they are fighting for. Long before they understand the cosmic scale of their destiny, they understand the value of the individuals in their lives. Family, friends, mentors, lovers, communities, and promises form the emotional gravity that keeps them standing, even when the world around them begins to collapse. The chosen one does not persist because destiny tells them to. They persist because their heart demands it. They persist because they can picture the faces of the people who will suffer if they fail. Stories across all genres show this emotional dimension as a defining trait. The chosen one may be part of a prophecy, but they are also part of a family. They may carry ancient powers, but they also carry memories of laughter, support, and shared history. They may be the key to saving a kingdom, world, or universe, but they also remember the people who treated them with kindness long before destiny ever revealed itself. These human connections become the emotional anchor points that tether them to life, resilience, and action. One of the most powerful aspects of this emotional anchor is how personal the mission becomes once the chosen one sees exactly who stands to lose everything. For them, fighting is not an abstract effort to fulfill a cosmic script. It is a fight that has faces, names, voices, and stories. They are not defending an idea, they are protecting the people who gave their life meaning long before destiny thrust a heavier purpose upon them. These emotional bonds transform a universal struggle into an intimate one. And when a mission becomes personal, quitting is no longer an option. Family often represents the first emotional pillar. Whether bound by blood or by chosen kinship, the chosen one frequently draws strength from their origins. Even if their family is fractured, imperfect, or distant, the idea of safeguarding the people who shaped their childhood forms a core part of their motivation. They carry childhood memories, shared moments, and the sense of belonging that comes from knowing where they come from. When danger looms over the world, the Chosen One does not simply think about saving masses of unknown people, they think of the ones they personally cherish. Fear of losing them becomes a force stronger than any villain, prophecy, or existential threat. Friends have an equally profound influence. Companions who stand beside the Chosen One, sometimes knowing the truth, sometimes not, represent the deepest forms of trust and loyalty. They are the voices of encouragement, doubt, humour, and honesty. They are the people who see the protagonist as human, not as legend. These relationships ground the Chosen One, reminding them that despite their unique role, they are not alone. Even when their destiny is theirs alone to fulfill, the emotional support of friends creates a stabilizing presence that prevents despair from taking control. The Chosen One fights for these friendships because they understand the value of having someone who accepts them without expectation or prophecy attached. Communities also play a critical role in shaping the Chosen One's emotional commitment. While personal relationships offer intimate motivation, communities provide scale. The Chosen One often grows up within groups, villages, schools, guilds, tribes, towns, that symbolize a way of life they cherish. They see ordinary people living ordinary days, unaware of the looming threats. They witness joy, struggle, and resilience in everyday life, and they feel compelled to preserve it. When these communities face destruction or oppression, the Chosen One sees the true cost of failure. They recognize that their fight is not just about saving individuals, but ensuring that life itself can continue to flourish in its simplest and most beautiful forms. Protecting community becomes synonymous with protecting humanity. Promises add yet another emotional dimension. The Chosen One often makes vows to mentors, friends, dying guardians, or even to themselves. These promises become binding emotional contracts that hold them steady in the darkest hours. A promise represents a moment of clarity, a decision made with conviction, a truth spoken from the depths of their heart. When everything else feels uncertain, the memory of a promise can rekindle determination. The Chosen One may falter, but the weight of their word compels them to rise again. They refuse to break their promise, especially when it was given to someone who believed in them before they believed in themselves. The emotional anchors extend beyond individuals and expand into ideals. Love, compassion, loyalty, justice, hope. These intangible forces shape the Chosen One's motivations as much as any tangible relationship. They fight to protect not only people, but the values those people embody. When a villain threatens peace, innocence, or freedom, the Chosen One perceives it as an attack on everything that makes life worth living. These values evolve into symbolic extensions of the people they love. Every emotional bond becomes a representation of something greater, and every value becomes a reflection of the people who taught it to them. This emotional depth reshapes the Chosen One's identity. They no longer see themselves solely as the subject of prophecy. Instead, they view themselves as a protector. The shift from "I must do this because destiny demands it" to "I will do this because the people I love need me" marks a crucial psychological evolution. It is the moment when the Chosen One stops reacting to fate and begins actively choosing their path. Even when destiny feels oppressive, even when responsibility feels crushing, these emotional ties transform the mission into an expression of the Chosen One's values, heart, and humanity. In many narratives, moments of near defeat reveal the true strength of these emotional anchors. When the Chosen One collapses under physical exhaustion or emotional strain, it is the memory of someone they love that reignites their will. The image of a friend in danger, a family member crying, a mentor's final words, or a community praying becomes the spark that pushes them back to their feet. This recurrence emphasizes that emotional strength can surpass physical power. The Chosen One rises not from invincibility, but from love. At times, these emotional anchors also create vulnerability. Villains often attempt to exploit the Chosen One's attachments, understanding that strong emotional bonds can be used as leverage. Yet instead of weakening the protagonist, these threats often solidify their resolve. The idea of losing their loved ones becomes intolerable, and the fear of such loss turns into raw determination. The Chosen One understands that the only path to protecting what matters most is forward. Retreat would guarantee destruction, perseverance offers hope. Thus, emotional vulnerability becomes emotional armor. Another critical aspect of emotional anchors is the sense of belonging they offer. Even when destiny sets the chosen one apart, these relationships remind them that they are part of something larger than themselves. This sense of belonging counters the isolation that often comes with being chosen. It restores balance within their psyche by reminding them that, despite their unique role, they are still human with human needs. Belonging becomes a source of strength that reinforces their emotional resilience. It tells them that they are not fighting alone, even when the ultimate responsibility is theirs to bear. The mission, therefore, transforms from a task imposed by the universe to a deeply personal commitment. Each emotional anchor adds a layer of urgency, love, and purpose to their journey. The chosen one fights not because prophecy demands it, but because they refuse to let those they care about suffer. They fight to preserve their memories, protect their relationships, and safeguard the lives intertwined with their own. The mission becomes a reflection of their emotional identity. Failure becomes unthinkable not because of destiny's consequences, but because of what it would mean emotionally. These emotional connections also influence the chosen one's moral compass. The people they care for remind them of what is good, what is worth fighting for, and what must never be compromised. When faced with morally complex decisions, they think about how their choices will impact those they love. This moral grounding strengthens their resolve, ensuring that perseverance is rooted not just in necessity, but in ethical clarity. They fight with purpose, conviction, and emotional integrity. Ultimately, emotional anchors turn the chosen one into an embodiment of loyalty, resilience, and determination. Their strength is not solely derived from destiny or power, but from the relationships that define their humanity. They rise because they cannot bear to see those bonds broken. They persist because each person they love becomes a reason to keep moving. These emotional ties do more than support the chosen one. They complete them. They remind them of who they were, who they are, and who they are becoming. And when the world threatens to collapse, these emotional anchors become the invisible hands that lift them back up. They are not just fighting for prophecy, they are fighting for love. Transformation in the chosen one narrative is never a superficial shift. It is not simply the acquisition of power, the learning of a new skill, or the acceptance of a mission. True transformation is internal. It reshapes the very structure of the character's identity, altering how they perceive themselves and the world, and creating a psychological boundary they can never uncross. Once the chosen one undergoes their awakening, whether through revelation, crisis, or profound inner confrontation, they evolve into someone fundamentally different from the version of themselves that existed before. This transformation is the heart of why quitting becomes impossible. To quit would mean rejecting their own growth, betraying everything they have struggled to understand, and collapsing back into a limited self that no longer fits who they have become. Before their awakening, the chosen one typically lives within the narrow boundaries of their own assumptions. They may see themselves as ordinary, flawed, unremarkable, or incapable of influencing anything beyond their immediate environment. Their identity is shaped by self-doubt, routine, or the external expectations imposed by family, society, or circumstance. But the awakening shatters those boundaries. It forces them to confront truths that lie far beyond the horizon of their old world. This confrontation widens their consciousness, transforming them from someone who reacts to life into someone who actively shapes destiny. Once they have glimpsed their true potential, the limitations of their past self feel suffocating, even impossible to return to. This expansion of identity is not instantaneous. It unfolds in layers, each revelation pulling them further away from the person they used to be. At first, the awakening may feel disorienting. They question whether they deserve this role, or whether they are capable of fulfilling it. They fear the consequences of stepping into a larger reality. But fear cannot erase knowledge. Once they have seen what they are capable of, once they have touched the deeper truth of who they are meant to become, a psychological threshold is crossed. They understand that forward motion is the only path that aligns with their new sense of self. As this transformation deepens, the chosen one begins to recognize that their old identity was defined by constraints that no longer hold power. They see how small their life once was, not because it lacked value, but because it lacked perspective. Awakening brings with it a heightened awareness of purpose, strength, and responsibility. They realize that their struggles, insecurities, and past limitations were stepping stones that led them to this very moment. Their past self may have been afraid or uncertain, but their present self is forged by knowledge, growth, and inner clarity. To abandon the journey now would mean abandoning the very transformation that brought them closer to their true identity. One of the most profound aspects of this inner growth is the development of self-understanding. The chosen one begins to see who they truly are beyond labels, expectations, or external definitions. They experience a sense of awakening that touches the deepest part of their psyche. They confront their fears, test their courage, question their morality, and discover strength previously buried beneath doubt. This introspective journey becomes a form of rebirth. They forge a new self through trials that force them to reassess their values, choices, and desires. After this process, the idea of returning to the simpler identity they once held feels like stepping backward into a smaller, more fragile version of themselves. Growth makes regression unbearable. This irreversible evolution also reshapes how they view their own power. Power, in the Chosen One narrative, is rarely treated as a mere tool. It becomes symbolic of potential, maturity, and purpose. When the Chosen One learns to wield their gifts, whatever form those gifts take, they begin to see themselves as someone capable of creating meaningful change. This belief anchors their transformation. Even if they once felt insignificant, they now understand that their actions hold weight. Their power becomes intertwined with their sense of identity, not because it elevates them above others, but because it reveals parts of themselves they had never dared to explore. To quit would mean rejecting the truth of who they are becoming, a truth they fought to uncover. Another dimension of inner growth is the recognition of personal agency. The Chosen One starts to understand that destiny may have chosen them, but they are the ones who choose how to respond. This shift from passive acceptance to active commitment marks a critical milestone in their evolution. They stop viewing themselves as someone dragged by fate and start seeing themselves as someone who walks toward destiny willingly. This realization makes quitting a contradiction. If they were to abandon their journey, they would not merely be rejecting destiny, they would be rejecting the self-determination they worked so hard to claim. Over time, the Chosen One also gains clarity about the meaning of strength. In the beginning, strength might appear to them as physical ability, mystical power, or combat skill. But as the story unfolds, strength reveals itself as something far more profound. It becomes an understanding of endurance, resilience, empathy, moral conviction, and the ability to rise after every fall. The character recognizes that true strength is not about dominance, but about persistence. Not about perfection, but about growth. This understanding becomes deeply ingrained in their identity. Once they grasp this truth, quitting ceases to make sense. It would contradict the very definition of strength they now embody. Inner growth also enhances their emotional intelligence. They learn to navigate their fears instead of avoiding them, to face trauma instead of burying it, and to care deeply, even when caring leads to pain. Their emotional landscape becomes richer, more complex, and more courageous. They start to see vulnerability not as weakness, but as a source of connection and humanity. This emotional maturation makes quitting impossible, because quitting would mean reverting to a state of fear and avoidance. The Chosen One knows that they have already faced too much, learned too much, felt too much to step backward. Their understanding of purpose also undergoes profound transformation. Before awakening, purpose might have been a vague desire or a distant dream, but after awakening, purpose becomes a guiding force. It becomes the anchor that holds them steady through chaos. They see their place in the world with new clarity. They understand that their presence matters, that their actions matter, and that their choices shape the balance of everything around them. Purpose becomes a living flame inside them, one that cannot be extinguished by doubt, exhaustion, or fear. To quit would mean extinguishing that flame, and the Chosen One cannot bear the thought. Another element of inner growth is the realization that they are no longer alone. Not only do emotional anchors bind them to the people they love, but their inner transformation makes them part of something larger than themselves. They become intricately connected to the world's survival, to the lives of strangers they have never met, and to the legacy they will leave behind. This sense of belonging to a larger narrative becomes a source of profound strength. The chosen one understands that their growth serves not only themselves but also the world around them. Their evolution is part of a greater tapestry, and to walk away would mean unraveling that tapestry. The psychological threshold they cross during this journey is irreversible, because it alters their worldview permanently. Once they accept who they are, understand their role, and experience the full weight of their potential, the past becomes uninhabitable. The old self feels too small to contain their expanded consciousness. They cannot unsee what they have seen or unknow what they have learned. The journey transforms them on a cellular level, making regression emotionally painful and psychologically impossible. Quitting becomes a betrayal, not just of destiny or loved ones, but of the self. It would mean denying the battles they've fought, the lessons they've learned, and the person they have become through hardship. It would mean invalidating their courage, breaking the promises they made to themselves, and returning to a life that no longer aligns with their identity. This internal conflict is what ultimately eliminates quitting from the equation. The chosen one is not merely unable to quit, they are unable to endure the spiritual consequences of quitting. This inner growth becomes the ultimate justification for their perseverance. It transforms struggle into meaning, pain into purpose, and uncertainty into clarity. Once transformed, they stand on the other side of a psychological threshold that forever separates who they were from who they are. Their past self dissolves in the presence of their awakened identity. There is no turning back because the past no longer exists as a viable version of life. Only forward motion aligns with the truth of who they have become. In the end, the reason the chosen one never quits can be traced back to three powerful forces that intertwine so completely they become impossible to separate. The first is the weight of destiny, the immense realization that their role is not optional but essential. They understand that turning away would trigger consequences far greater than their own fears or doubts, and that the lives of countless others hinge on their willingness to keep moving forward. This awareness transforms responsibility into something heavier than obligation. It becomes a cosmic truth they cannot ignore. Destiny does not simply call them, it surrounds them, shapes them, and ultimately binds them to a path that only they can walk. The second force is emotional attachment. Despite the grandness of prophecy or the vastness of the world they must save, what truly anchors them are the people who mean something to them. Family, friends, mentors, communities, promises, and memories form the emotional core of their resilience. The chosen one fights not only for abstract ideals, but for faces they remember, voices they cherish, and relationships that define their humanity. When everything else falls apart, these emotional ties become the final shield against despair. They push forward because losing the people they love is unthinkable. Their heart becomes the engine that drives them, often more powerfully than destiny itself. The third force is inner transformation. Once the chosen one undergoes their awakening, they cannot return to who they once were. Their understanding of the world, their purpose, and their own identity expands in ways that cannot be undone. They cross a psychological threshold that divides their life into before and after, and the version of themselves that existed before now feels too small, too limited, too incomplete. Quitting would mean betraying everything they have learned, every fear they have conquered, and every moment of growth they have earned through suffering and perseverance. Their transformation becomes a one-way passage. Moving forward is no longer a choice, it is the only direction their evolved self will allow. Together, these three forces, destiny, emotional connection, and irreversible inner growth, create a character who is uniquely, undeniably incapable of surrender. This is why the chosen one archetype continues to resonate across generations, cultures, and storytelling traditions. It mirrors the human experience of carrying burdens we did not choose, fighting for people we love, and growing into versions of ourselves that no longer fit the limitations of the past. The chosen one's refusal to quit is not just an element of fantasy, it is a reflection of the resilience people recognize within themselves, even in their most difficult moments. And because of that, this archetype remains timeless, enduring, and endlessly inspiring. If you enjoyed this deep dive into narrative psychology and storytelling symbolism, make sure to support the channel. Please like and share the video to help it reach more viewers, who appreciate this kind of analysis. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss upcoming content.